This is the story of Rose Red and Snow White. Once upon a time, way out in the woods, there lived a lady. This lady's pride and joy was her garden. She grew all sorts of plants there, but her favorite part of the garden was the flower bed. Every day she would go out to the flower bed and tend all the flowers with loving care. But every day, the more she tended, the more she realized that she just wanted a daughter of her own, children of her own. She would cry there. Every night, the dew fairy would come along to the flowers and ask, "Why is there dew over all of you already?" And the flowers would say, "This is not dew, but Our Lady's tears." And every night, the dew fairy went back to the fairy queen and said, "There's a lady out there who doesn't have any children, and she feels very sad about it." And one night, the queen of the fairies went herself to ask the flowers what was happening. And the flowers said, "Our Lady has no children, and so she is sad." And so the queen of the fairies went to the doorpost of the lady's house and planted 2 flowers on either side. Well, the next morning, the lady came out, and there were 2 little plants growing on either side of her porch. And being a nice lady, she decided to let those little plants grow up. And she watered them and tended them each and every day. And by, they grew into these big plants which vined her whole doorway. And there was these 2 big blossoms on them, one on each of them. One of the blossoms was bright red as an apple. And the other flower was just as white as snow. Well, she went to bed, and the next morning she saw that flowers had opened up, and inside each was a little baby girl. And she took those little baby girls inside and said, "I will raise these 2 as my own." And she named the white one Snow White, and the red one Rose Red. And Rose Red and Snow White grew up as the nicest little girls you'd ever meet. They were kind and hardly ever fought with each other. Rose Red loved to run out and play, and Snow White was gentle and caring. Well, both of them had amazing fun, and the lady wasn't sad anymore. But one day, it was a dark and blustery day, and the snow was piling up. A blizzard came. All 3 of the ladies, Snow White, Rose Red, and their mother, were all sitting around the fire knitting. And there came a knock at the door. Thump, thump, thump. And the lady turned and looked at the door and said, "Rose Red, would you answer who that is? It may be a weary traveler who would like to sit at the fire." And so Rose Red went over and opened the door. And there in the doorway stood a huge grizzly bear. And Rose Red screamed and quickly shut the door. As soon as she shut the door, there came another loud thump, thump, thump. And the mother said, "Rose Red, open the door for whoever may be there." And Rose Red slowly opened the door. And the bear outside said, "May I please come in? Your fire looks warm and it's very cold out here." And the mother, of course, being a welcoming and nice lady, said, "Of course you may come in." Rose Red opened the door, and slowly the bear came inside. He shook off all the snow from his coat, and Rose Red and Snow White laughed. Slowly, he walked over and lay down by the fire. Rose Red and Snow White were slightly scared, but they knew that their mother must have a reason for letting this bear inside. So, they gently sat back down in their seats and resumed what they were doing. And by, they came to trust the bear. And they would play, and every night, whenever the snow came, he would come, and the girls would open the door, and he would come in and lay by the fire. At some point there, they would play around and play and have fun, and then the girls would go to bed, and the next morning, the bear would be gone. Then, just as the snow started melting and less blizzards came, the bear said, I'm afraid I must go, girls. I'll see you next year, hopefully. For I must go to seek my fortune. And the girls said goodbye, and the bear left. Well, spring came, and soon berry season arrived. And the mother said, "Girls, I want you to go out, for the blackberries must be ripe on the other side of the hill. Take your basket and go pick me as many as you can." And so the girls gathered what they needed and left. The girls left. They were walking through the woods when they heard a great commotion. And they walked up and found a little man with a long beard caught in a log. And the little man was struggling, and he said, "What are you two just standing there for? Come and help me out!" And well, Rose Red and Snow White looked at each other, and they walked over and started to help the little man try to get his beard out. But no matter how much they tugged and pulled at it, it wouldn't come out. So Snow White took out from her little bag of sewing stuff a little pair of scissors. And she walked up to the very end of the little man's beard and snipped off just the tiniest little part, the part that was stuck. And well, that little man was angry. He said, "How dare you snip my beard? Why, you little ragamuffin vagabonds? How dare you?" And well, he ran away and picked up a bag from behind a bush and ran. And Snow White and Rose Red looked at each other and shrugged and then kept walking. Well, the girls picked as many blue blackberries as they could handle and then went back to the house. Sometime later, their mother said, "Girls, it's raspberry season. Why don't you two get your stuff together and go over the hill in the dam and see if you can pick some raspberries for me, and I'll make raspberry jam." And so the girls gathered their things and left. They were passing by a little stream when they heard a great commotion again. And there on the bank was that little man. And this time his long beard was stuck on a fishing pole, and there was a great fish trying to pull him into the water. And he was yelling and screaming and said, "What are you two just standing there for? Come and help me out!" And so the girls ran over and they tugged and they pulled, but no matter what they did, they couldn't get the little man free. And so Snow White looked at Rose Red and pulled out her scissors and snipped off just the tiniest little bit, just the tiniest part that was stuck. And that little man, he got so angry, his face turned red, and he said, "How dare you? How dare you touch my beard? I told you to help me. You call this helping? How dare you?" And the little man ran over and grabbed a bag that was behind a log and left. And Snow White and Rose Red looked at each other and shrugged and kept walking. Well, they got to the ram and they got past the hill with nothing else happened, and they picked the raspberries and went home. And their mother made a delicious raspberry jam. A little while later, the mother came to the girls and said, "Girls, it's strawberry season. Why don't you go through the forest and see what you can find any strawberries? And if you get back, I'll make. And when you get back, we can can them." And so the girls took their stuff and left. Well, they were walking through the woods, and they heard a great commotion again. For this time, the little man had gotten his beard caught around a net, and the net was held by a great eagle, and the eagle was flying up into the air. And the girls ran over to try and help the little man. But no matter how much they tugged and pulled, the little man was going higher and higher into the air, lifting the girls up with him. And so Snow White looked at Rose Red and pulled out her scissors and just snipped off the tiniest bit that she could to let the little man free. They all dropped back to earth, and the little man was so angry. He said, "This is the last time. I will not be disgraced anymore." And he went and started to put a spell on the girls. But just before he could utter the first word, there came a great roar from the forest. Grizzly bear came running out, and the little man, all his anger just went, And he ran behind the girls and said, "Don't eat me, Mr. Bear! Don't eat me! Eat these two plump girls! Leave me be!" And he went to run. But the bear didn't give one glance at the two girls. He went straight for the little man and gobbled him up. And then he walked behind a bush, and there were 3 bags of treasure. And the girls looked at the bear, and the bear took the treasure up, and all of a sudden there was a great flash of blinding light, and there before them stood a prince. And the girls knew that this was the bear that then this was their friend. And the prince said to them, "Thank you, girls, so much, for without you I would never have been able to catch this little man. He put a spell on me 2 winters back that I would never be a man again until I'd taken back my treasure." Well, Snow White and Rose Red moved to the castle, and Rose Red married the prince. Their mother came with them with the 2 flower bushes that they had been born from, and Snow White married the prince's brother. And all of them lived happily ever after. The end. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It was really fun for me. I always loved this story. My mom used to tell it to me all the time. I just love it so much. I hope you guys liked it. I realized that I made some mistakes. I hope it was eligible, but you can understand it. Anyway, I hope you have a great time today. Just Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and give you peace. Bye. But just